I'm Gayla, and I want to tell you today about 5 steps how to teach English reading to a foreign student in as successful way as possible. I've done this myself. I've had a lot of success with this method that I've developed, and I want to share it with you as well so that you and more importantly, all your students can also benefit from this. Everyone who teaches English knows that there are 5 basic steps to teaching English, to teaching reading. They are phonemic awareness, phonics fluency, vocabulary, and text comprehension. I'm not going to go into the details of that and what that all means, but let's just take that as a given. We're accepting that. Phonemic awareness is something that we don't really have to deal with usually as second language learners because they've gained that skill when they've learned their mother tongue. But we do have to deal with the phonics fluency, vocabulary, and text comprehension, and I'm going to tell you how this method I developed works. First, I'm going to give you a little background how this even happened. I had a friend who I begged to tutor my daughter in something that she needed help with, and she said she'd only do it on condition that I tutor her daughter, and I don't usually like tutoring. I find it extraordinarily boring, but I agreed to do it because I wanted my daughter tutored by this great teacher. So she would come to me and read her little story that she needed to read, and every 3 seconds she'd ask me what a word was, and about 5 minutes down the road she was asking me the same words again. At first it was, what does man, what does woman mean, what does leg mean, what does sky mean, and 5 minutes later, what is man, what is woman, what does sky mean, and I found it really boring, and I also didn't think I was doing her any good. And then I had this great idea. I wrote down all the words that she asked me. What does this mean? I wrote them down for myself. And she also wrote them down, and she wrote the translation for it in her mother tongue. Then, after the end of the lesson, I would she'd go home, and I would go to my computer. And on my computer, I would take the words that she didn't know, and I would group them in groups of about 5 to 7 words. Although most of the time I use them chronologically, as much as possible I use it chronologically. I would also play around with it a little bit to make sure in every group of 5 to 7 words we have a mixture of nouns, verbs, adverbs, adjectives, prepositions, and so on, if I had that choice. After that, what I did was I made short phrases with each one of those words. I used each of the words at least 3 times, if not 4 times, and I'd make a phrase. For example, if let's say I said, let's say I had a cat, walk, dog, jump. So I could have a phrase, cat and dog, another phrase, the cat walks, another phrase, the dog walks, another phrase, walk and jump, or whatever it was I said. And well, you could have. I made all those phrases up, making sure that every single word was used at least 3-4 times in the phrases, in the short phrases. After that, I had, what I did with this particular girl was I emailed this list to her so that she could read it at home. But the first time we did it, I just had her read it with me. She came in and I said, listen, remember all those words that you listed them and you put all those, you have all those definitions? Well, guess what? We're going to go over it now. And we read the words, and I made sure that on top of the words, those 5 to 7 words, right on top of them, she wrote the word down, the translation of it down in her mother tongue. And then afterwards, we read all the phrases. Cat and dog, jump and run, the cat walks, the dog walks. After we'd read it, and I knew that she had it, the fluency of the reading, then we went back and we translated all of them. So it would be the cat and the dog, and then she translated into her mother tongue. Dog and dog jumps, she translates into her mother tongue, and so on. And then comes the last part, which is she simply read. She would then read and understand what was going on. And it was as simple as that. And it was really a pleasure, and it just changed everything. And what I did afterwards was she would she would read for me the previous lesson, and I'd see she'd know it, and then whatever previous paragraphs we'd worked on, and then she'd keep on reading in this story, in this book that she had to read, and she would ask me questions. And then, as I said at the beginning, she wrote down the words that she didn't know, and she'd write the translation. I'd write them down also. I'd go after the lesson, I'd go up to my computer, I'd create this page for her, and then I would just send it to her, and she'd get it on, and she would print it out, and she'd go over it, so that by the time she came back to the next lesson, she was prepared. She'd in essence had an extra lesson on her own, but it was really easy. She could do it, and she was more prepared and ready to go, and really learned a lot. And I'm very happy to say that she passed all her matriculation exams as she was supposed to. Now, I just want to show you what I developed with this method. I developed the book, and I printed out 2 pages for you over here. And what we did was we've written all the phonics that they have in the story, and the kids have to read it. And then here, though, is the idea I talked about, where you have the story words that they need to know. There's room on top to write any words, the translation of the words. And then there's also room to write a couple more words if you feel your student doesn't know another word and needs it. Over here are all your phrases. And then on the other page, the next page, is you have the story that the child wants to read. And the child reads it, and as they read it, they know it. And they enjoy it and understand it, and it just makes it just truly wonderful, because you've gone through all the steps of the phonics and the fluency, the vocabulary, and ultimately they get the text comprehension. So I just want to go over the 5 steps again. These 5 steps of successful reading for your second language learner, your foreign language learner. And it's like this. The first step is you write down all the words your student doesn't know. Your second step is you organize them into groups of 5 to 7 words, preferably balancing them so you've got some nouns and verbs that make a very good balance and mix of words and mix of phrases. Your third one is you make all these short phrases up, making sure that you've used each word at least 3 times, preferably 4 if you can squeeze it in. Your fourth step is that the student reads and defines the words and writing clearly on top what each one means in their mother tongue. And then the 5th step is that they read each group of phrases. They read all these phrases, and then they go back and read and translate the phrases. And that leads to the 6th, not step, but I'd say it leads to the goal. That leads to the success where they read the story fluently, and they understand it, and they enjoy it. Thank you very much, and I wish you a lot of success. You should have as many students as possible who can find English reading to be pleasurable and not torturous. Bye-bye.